When the freezing weather arrived, I was lying on the sofa, eating skewers. The meat was sizzling on the grill. I comfortably warmed myself by the fire and drank laughing tea as my ex-boyfriend and my former best friend struggled for their lives. Premier wa Reborn. In my previous life, after I caught my boyfriend Hong Shixian having an affair with my best friend Ellie, and exposed their secret plot to scam me out of my money, he pushed me out the door in a fit of rage. What I never expected was that, in what should have been September weather, a bizarre and heavy snowstorm suddenly fell. The temperature dropped to -50 degrees overnight, and I was frozen to death alive at my own doorstep. I was filled with extreme hatred. In my dying moments, I swore a vicious oath. If there is an afterlife, I will definitely make this pair of scumbags beg for life and pray for death. The extreme cold that numbed my senses was suddenly replaced by intense heat. Someone patted me. IOU. Let's go. It's time to get off work. I opened my eyes in surprise, only to find myself standing at the company entrance. I instinctively checked my phone. August 13th. I was actually reborn. I had actually returned to 20 days before I was killed. I was both shocked and overjoyed. I laughed wildly first, and then cried bitterly. I wanted to rush back immediately and kill those two bitches. But I quickly calmed down. I remembered the sudden, unprecedented, bizarre, and terrifying snowstorm right before my death. The temperature was absurdly high. It was so hot that even the stingy old lady took the initiative to turn on the AC. By the end of August, it finally felt a bit cool. But who could have imagined that a month later I would be frozen to death? So my most urgent priority right now is not to seek revenge on those two scumbags, but to figure out how to survive the upcoming freezing weather of unknown duration. Ignoring my colleagues' looks as if I had gone crazy, I went to my boss and resigned. Then I went back to the apartment I shared with Hong Shixian and packed up all my belongings. But I wasn't in a hurry to leave. On my way back at my mind, even if I leave, I won't make it easy for him. I found Hong Shixian's ID, downloaded several online loan apps, and inputted all his information into them. Then I cooked a table full of good food, waiting for him to come home from work. As soon as Hong Shixian walked in, he was surprised to see my sweet smile and the table of food. He was momentarily stunned. I gently told him that I planned to sell one of the houses my parents left me. And by the house he liked as our marital home. He and Ellie had been conspiring all along on how to coax me into selling my parents' house, to scam me out of my money. Seeing that I finally agreed to sell, Hong Shixian was thrilled and came over to kiss me. I pushed him away. Let's eat first. I've taken a week of annual leave. I have to go see the real estate agent early tomorrow. While eating, I acted cute and took out my phone, asking him to film a funny video with me. Hong Shixian had always hated me filming him, but right now, he needed to coax me into selling the house, so he naturally obeyed my every command. I made him blink, and he blinked. I made him shake his head, and he shook his head. Using this, over 1 million in loans from the apps were all approved. I uninstalled the apps, smiled, and put down the phone. I just can't get a good shot. Let's not film anymore. We both had a great time eating that meal. The atmosphere was very harmonious. The next day, after he went to work, I took my things and left. My parents left me to houses before they died. One is a school district apartment in the city, and the other is a small villa at the foot of the mountains in the suburbs. The villa hadn't been lived in for a long time. I hired cleaners to tidy it up, while thinking about how to renovate it to survive that deadly freezing weather. Floor heating, air conditioning heating. No, none of them will work. With such heavy snow, the water pipes will inevitably freeze and burst. Power lines will be crushed. Relying on floor heating or AC is simply impossible. So, the bomb shelter. I rushed straight into the basement. On the east wall of the basement, there was an iron door. I grabbed the rusty iron ring and pulled hard. A blast of cold air hit my face. This is the place. Years ago, when my dad was renovating this house, this wall in the basement suddenly collapsed, revealing an air raid shelter built during the war. This shelter is warm in winter and cool in summer, and it's very dry inside. So my dad cleaned it up and used it as the family's storage room. With this constant temperature bomb shelter, why would I fear extreme temperatures? I had the cleaners help me thoroughly clean the shelter. I also found a few workers, on dirait them, to brush the inside with lime water. Early the next morning, I hired people to help me improve the ventilation shafts of the shelter. The workers just took the money and worked without asking any questions. They added long stainless steel pipes to every ventilation shaft of my house and welded stainless steel caps on top. The way snow wouldn't fall into the pipes and block the ventilation. I also bought 2 sets of stoves, one purely for heating and one for both heating and cooking. The chimneys could be extended outside, so I didn't have to worry about carbon monoxide poisoning. I got a large amount of firewood and charcoal and bought an oven while I was at it, in case water, electricity, and gas became unreliable. These would be the most secure. They can provide heat and be used for cooking. Next was hoarding supplies. 20 high-capacity power banks, 10 flashlights, and several spare batteries. 2 boxes of matches, lighters, and windproof ignition guns. I rented a cargo van and went to the wholesale market. 500 catties of rice, 50 catties of flour, 20 boxes of instant noodles, 100 barrels of bottled water, various dried vegetables, jerky, and canned food. Then I went to the supermarket. Toilet paper, sanitary pads, disposable underwear, various toiletries, and all the medicines I could think of. Gauze, disinfectant, down quilts and down jackets of varying thickness, hats, scarves, moisture-proof gloves, high-top waterproof warm thick boots, windproof goggles, mask. I also bought snow shovels and tools. All these supplies were bought in batches from different places to avoid drawing attention with large quantities. I drove the van and hauled them home myself, trip after trip. By the time I had settled all these supplies properly, it was less than a week before the extreme cold arrived. During this time, Hong Shixian would call me every day to ask about the house. Several times I almost laughed out loud. On the day I left, I secretly installed a security camera, première journée du temps, watching him affectionately calling me on the phone while cuddling with Ellie in his arms. Disgusting. I held back my disgust. At first, Ellie asked Hong Shixian, "Do you love me?" Hong Shixian answered very smoothly, "Of course, I love my big baby the most." thing that Eki said Ellie. Hard on the cheek. Baby, did you hear that? Your hubby is kissing you. As soon as he finished, Ellie laughed silently with him in his arms. I crossed my legs and said lightly, I heard it. But why do I feel like you're kissing a pig? Ellie, in his arms, immediately jumped up, looking angry. Hong Shixian quickly raised a finger, signaling her to keep quiet. He then said to me, silly girl. Don't call yourself a pig. Of course, I'm not talking about myself. Premièrement. Oh, by the way, have you seen Ellie these past 2 days? Hong Shixian got a bit nervous, waving his hands at Ellie, but said, no. Why would I see her? I immediately acted relieved. Good that you haven't. She's been borrowing money everywhere lately to pay off her brother's gambling debts. I advised her a few times, but she wouldn't listen. A feud, premier sawa woman. Being held by a short, fat man going into a hotel. She looked a lot like her, but Ellie wouldn't do that, right? Seeing Hong Shixian's face change in the camera, and the panic appear on Ellie's face, I smiled and hung up the phone. Ellie and I were college classmates. Her family favored boys over girls, so I felt sorry for her and treated her as well as I could, even when she gave herself to an old man named Brother Wong to pay off her brother's gambling debts. I only felt heartache for her and never looked down on her. I never even revealed a word to Hong Shixian. But despite my genuine treatment, she not only stole my boyfriend, but also wanted my life. Thinking of the humiliation of being beaten and driven out by them. Thinking of the torture I suffered before being frozen to death. Thinking of how I begged them to open the door, even if just to let me take my phone and ID. But they refused. My heart was full of hatred. In the comrade already. Ellie kept swearing that she definitely didn't go to a hotel with anyone, and insisted that I was slandering her. Première smiled as I watched them argue in the camera, only wondering how long it would take for them to realize my things were gone. I was even more curious how Hong Shixian would react when he found out he owed so many loans. What would his reaction be? They only knew my parents left me houses, but they didn't know where the houses were. So he couldn't find me either. I was really looking forward to seeing his expression then. Turning off the camera, I went out to the market and picked up the pork and vegetables I had pre-ordered. One rented 5 commercial freezers to temporarily store the food. When the freezing weather comes, the outdoors will be a natural freezer. By then, I won't care, even if there's a power outage. Finally, I hired someone to reinforce the doors and windows. Safety is one reason. But another point is that I'm afraid the doors and windows will be crushed by the heavy snow and extreme cold. If that happens, the house would be ruined. After doing all this, there were only 2 days left before the cold arrived. Hong Shixian finally discovered the massive loans he had incurred. He called me to ask what was going on. I lay lazily on the sofa and said, What, Luan? I don't know anything about it. That money was all transferred to your card, and you're still playing dumb. Hong Shixian was furious. Malmo, what are you trying to do? Oh, you mean the money you transferred a few days ago, the 1.3 million. You finally admit it. Hong Shixian was jumping mad. And then he realized. What did I transfer to you? When did I ever transfer it to you? I immediately replied with a very surprised tone. What? It was the night before I left. You said you were paying back the money you borrowed from me. I even told you there was no rush, but you said brothers should settle accounts clearly, and debts must be paid. Hong Shixian was clearly stunned. What are you talking about? I sent over a photo. Et toi en IOU. It clearly stated that he borrowed 1.3 million in cash from me, verified the amount, and would pay it off within a year at a 20% interest rate. Hong Shixian exploded. When did I ever borrow money from you? I also acted stunned. What do you mean? Are you trying to deny the debt? Hong Shixian naturally denied it, screaming on the other end of the phone. I hung up the phone and went out to eat. I cherished these last quiet days. Very much. I had my favorite Sichuan food and bought a large bouquet of flowers. Meanwhile, Hong Shixian kept calling me and sending messages, cursing me out. I didn't block him, nor did I reply, because before this, his attention was consumed by anger. So, he wouldn't notice that I had thrown away all the thick quilts and heavy winter clothes in the apartment. Griat. On the last day of the apocalypse countdown, I checked the shelter's ventilation shafts one last time and closed the doors and windows tightly to prevent the water pipes from bursting. After taking a shower, I turned off the main water valve and drained the pipes. I carried the bedding that had been sunning for days into the shelter and made my bed. I'll be sleeping here tonight. I lay in bed binge-watching shows. A call came in on my phone. Et toi, Ellie? I didn't answer, pulled out my iPad and tapped the camera feed. Ellie was indeed there. Two obviously had lost their sweet atmosphere. Hong Shixian was furious, and Ellie kept dialing her phone over and over again. Finally, she threw the phone down and cursed. I never expected her to be so calculating. I didn't see it at all these years. Then she scolded Hong Shixian. How can you be so stupid? You do whatever she tells you. Are you a pig? Hong Shixian was furious. Wasn't it you who kept saying she was easy to fool and naive? Otherwise, would I have trusted her so much? So, you're blaming me. Ellie's face darkened suddenly. Could what she said be true? Did you really borrow that money from her? How is that possible? Then what's with that IOU? How would I know? I fell asleep amidst their arguing. When premier au cœur paraîtrait, I reached out from under the covers to feel the temperature. It had indeed gotten much colder. I found a thick, long-down jacket and put it on. As soon as I stepped out, I shivered from the cold. I quickly ran to the first floor. The first floor was even colder than the basement. With trembling hands, I pulled back the curtains. Outside was blindingly white. Huge chunks of snow, like cotton balls, were smashing down. It was a blizzard. The apocalyptic freeze had arrived as expected. Hong Shixian and Ellie found all the warm gear they could and huddled together on the sofa. The AC was set to heating, but Ellie's teeth were still chattering. She asked tearfully, how could there not be a single thick quilt? Hong Shixian sat there shaking his head. I don't know. Usually, IOU takes care of this. He suddenly froze. Wait, IOU's things seem to all be gone. Good heavens, he finally noticed. Premier in bed, watching the iPad, and couldn't help laughing out loud. You will soon find out that not only are the quilts and thick clothes gone, But all the food is gone too. While I was laughing happily, my phone rang frantically. It was Hong Shixian. Première en soirée dite. Malmoyu, you. Perhaps he was too angry. Hong Shixian suddenly choked up. There was only the sound of heavy panting. I didn't speak. Just waiting quietly. Malmoyu, what exactly do you want to do? Hong Shixian took a deep breath and asked in a softer tone. I replied lightly. What are you talking about? You said you went back to sell the house. But you were actually lying to me, right? You came back to pack your things, didn't you? He gritted his teeth. Selling the house might not be a lie. But packing my things and never planning to see you again. That is definitely true. I chuckled softly. Hong Shixian, you were hoping I wouldn't come back anyway. Weren't you? What do you mean? Hey, if you cared about me, even a little, you wouldn't have just noticed today that all my things are gone. After saying that, I hung up the phone, put my phone on silent, and buried my head to sleep. When I woke up again, it was already 10 a.m. My phone was full of Hong Shixian's curses. I smiled and swiped them away. I wouldn't bear to block him. I'm waiting to see his miserable state. I opened Weibo. Overwhelming information. A small number of people were immersed in the joy of the snow. But most were wailing about being unable to go to work. They wondered why September weather could turn so freezing overnight and have such heavy snow. But whether they were joyful or wailing, no one had yet realized this was a catastrophe. I went to the first floor kitchen. The natural gas hadn't been cut off, so yet I started cooking. In such cold weather, of course, a hot bowl of noodles is the most comforting. Looking out, Première réalised that the heavy snow had almost buried the windows. Through the gaps, I could see huge clumps of snow still, smashing down fast and hard like rain. I suddenly realized that if the snow continued like this, my two-story house would soon be buried. Once it covered the shelter's ventilation shaft, I would suffocate to death inside. I instantly broke out in a cold sweat. But the snow was still fierce. I had no way to stop it. The only thing I could do was shovel it. I quickly put on a thick hat, scarf, and gloves and went to the second-floor terrace. The snow on the terrace had already piled up to my chin. Panting heavily, it took me a long time to shovel the snow from the terrace into the yard. Seeing the vent was unaffected, I breathed a sigh of relief. Then I climbed the ladder to the roof. My body was almost frozen stiff. But I gritted my teeth and persisted, but the snow was just too heavy. In the blink of an eye, the area I just shoveled was ankle deep again. This made me a bit panicked. I never expected that. After making so many preparations, I forgot I could be buried by the heavy snow. The thought that Hong Shixian and Ellie, living on the 6th floor, might not freeze to death. I suffocated. This frustration stuck in my throat. I finally managed to shovel the snow off the roof. Then I took to red ribbons and tied them to the ventilation shaft. This was in case the house got buried by the snow. I could find the vent's location via these red ribbons. After doing all this, I returned indoors. Seeing the electricity and gas were still running made me a bit surprised. I'm really happy for Hong Shixian and Ellie. Without power cuts, the AC still works. So they won't freeze to death that fast. The temperature inside the bomb shelter was significantly higher than outside. I took off my down jacket, hat, and gloves, and changed into comfortable pajamas. After thinking about it, I lit the fireplace. Honestly, I could still handle the temperature inside the shelter. But having witnessed the fierceness of the snow, I had to ensure the ventilation shaft remained unblocked. The hot air from the chimney would make the exhaust pipe boiling hot. The snow would melt from the heat, and the vent wouldn't be blocked. The dry firewood caught easily, and the fireplace was soon blazing. I sat comfortably on the bed in front of the fireplace, stretching lazily. Then picked up the iPad and tapped the camera feed. On the sofa, Hong Shixian, with a pale face, was swearing loudly. Mama, you, that bitch. When the snow stops, I'll go find her. I won't let her off. Ellie was shivering and crying. Hubby, I'm hungry. Hong Shixian didn't speak. Ellie cried louder. Hubby. I'm so hungry. Who isn't hungry? Hong Shixian roared. Don't eat. No one is taking the delivery orders. What can I do? Why don't you have any food here? Ellie started throwing a tantrum. Seeing these two scumbags in such a pathetic state made my depressed mood instantly improve. I put down the iPad and picked up my phone. Countless missed calls and abusive messages. All from Hong Shixian. There were a few from Ellie. All asking about my well-being and asking where I was. Hello? She still thinks, I don't know, she's with Hong Shixian. And is still acting with me. I glanced at them briefly and didn't reply. I opened the residential buildings group chat. The chat was buzzing about the snowstorm. À 10 points. No one cared about going to work anymore. Everyone was wailing about water cuts and power outages. I hesitated for a moment, but still reminded everyone, this weather is too bizarre. And who knows how long it will last. I advise everyone to cherish your drinking water, food, and warm clothes, blankets. And prepare for the worst. Première main des thèmes. To keep their doors and windows locked if the snow doesn't stop. And the temperature keeps dropping. People without food, water, or warm clothes, anything. Just to survive. Hong Shixian and Ellie wouldn't just sit and wait for death. They would definitely ask neighbors for help. Actually, this warning was unnecessary. I still remember before I froze to death. I knocked on the neighbor's door, across the hall, begging for help. I just wanted a thick jacket. Or for them to at least call the police. But no one opened the door. But I don't hate them. When disaster strikes, everyone looks out, no one for themselves, anything. I only hate those two scumbags, Hong Shixian and Ellie. After warning the neighbors in the group, I opened Ellie's chat box and replied, I'm at home. What about you? In the iPad camera monitor. Ellie was already frozen stiff. It was Hong Shixian who noticed my message. He quickly handed the phone to Ellie. Quick, that bitch mama you replied to you. But Ellie replied tearfully. So what if she replied? Can she deliver food to us? Can she deliver clothes and blankets to us? Hong Shixian slapped her. Are you stupid? Hurry up and ask for her address. When the snow stops, we can go find her to get the money back. Ellie took the phone. Her fingers visibly stiff from the cold. For a long time, I didn't receive a single message. I took a picture of the fireplace. The warm fire, my tea, and some snacks I sent the photo to Ellie and sent a voice message in a lazy tone. I didn't expect it to snow at this time. And so heavily. Thank goodness I have a fireplace at home. Otherwise, I'd freeze to death. Ellie's expression and movements instantly stiffened, followed by gnashing of teeth. She's actually warming by the fire. She still has food. How can she be living so comfortably? Hong Shixian was clearly triggered too. Urging Ellie to ask for my address, Ellie called instead. But premier nip. I messaged her saying I was hungry and was going to cook, and then set my phone to do not disturb. When the mushroom stew was done, how could I forget Hong Shixian and Ellie? I picked up my phone and took a bunch of pictures. You could almost smell the aroma through the screen. I generously sent them all to Ellie. If you can't sleep, looking at them is good too. In the camera feed, Ellie picked up her phone, looked at it, and burst out crying. She started hitting Hong Shixian. I'm starving to death. Why aren't you thinking of a way? What does she mean by this? Why is she sending me this? Hong Shixian looked at the phone. Il fait dark. His eyes full of resentment. In the evening, I went up to the second floor, terrace again, to check the ventilation shaft. The heavy snow was still fierce, and the red ribbons on the vent flapped loudly in the wind. Steam was rising from the chimney. Snow had already piled up to the second floor windows. I could only push the snow outward as much as possible to clear the terrace area. Fortunately, I had added long stainless steel pipes, so it wouldn't be buried for at least 2 days. Shivering, I quickly ran back into the bomb shelter and warmed myself by the fire for a long time before recovering. Then première réal. That the camera connection to Hong Shixian and Ellie was lost. The building group chat was full of wails. The power went out. Without electricity, the AC couldn't be used. For Hong Shixian and Ellie, who had no thick clothes or blankets, this would be a hellish destruction. I should be happy. But at this moment, I couldn't feel happy anymore. Among the overwhelming messages on my phone, besides cries for help, there was a lot of bad news about how many people had frozen to death in this snow disaster. I saw that almost all the troops, government personnel, and many volunteers had thrown themselves into the rescue operations. Countless electrical workers were braving the extreme cold of minus tens of degrees, trying their best to reach the fault sites, risking their lives to climb freezing, slippery utility poles, to repair power lines broken by the heavy snow. In just one day, there was news of over a dozen workers dying. This made my nose sting, and I couldn't hold back my tears. I suddenly lost interest in the fate of Hong Shixian and Ellie. Compared to those heroes, risking their lives for the snow disaster, these two worm-like things were truly not worth mentioning. I searched for local volunteer groups and applied to join. Perhaps because my blood was boiling again, I slept especially soundly that night. Oui, tout à 5 dream. When Première woke up 7. The fire in the fireplace had gone out, but the temperature in the shelter was still acceptable. I opened my phone and opened the volunteer group. The members were discussing how to brave the wind and snow to open up a lifeline. After much discussion, they were all defeated by reality. No one had a better solution. As they chatted, some people stopped replying. Probably their phones ran out of battery. A few more days passed. Premier opened Weibo and jumped up with a scream, finding a wave of cheers on it. Many places had received official announcements. The heavy snow was weakening. The government would use planes to sprinkle salt on the ground to assist in snow clearing. Residents were advised not to go out until further notice. This announcement immediately stirred up the whole country. Everyone was cheering. The snow was stopping. I wrapped myself in a thick down jacket and went to the terrace. The snow had indeed lightened. Instead of huge chunks, it turned into single flakes. This made me very happy. Because I was in a good mood, I decided to make some delicious food. I took out some semi-prepared meats, lit the charcoal basin, set up the grill, turned on the exhaust fan, and started grilling. The mea slice soon sizzled with oil on the grill. After thinking for a moment, I picked up my phone and pulled Ellie and Hong Shixian into a small group chat. I took a photo of the sizzling grilled meat and sent it over. Then I smiled and sent a voice message. Où en sommes? There was no reply. I don't know if their phones died or if they froze to death. I hope it's the latter. The next day, the snow finally stopped. But the temperature dropped even lower. I opened the terrace door, peeked at the ventilation shaft, and saw it was fine, so I returned to the bomb shelter. As long as it doesn't snow anymore, it's fine for the next few days. I stayed in the shelter, binge-watching shows, playing games, reading, and zoning out. I occasionally checked the news. The snow clearing operations were in full swing. But it was just too cold. According to the official announcement, the outdoor temperature had dropped to minus 80 degrees. Humans simply couldn't go out. Even the military's operations were halted. I didn't pay attention to Hong Shixian and Ellie, but they found me instead. Hong Shixian sent a selfie of himself wrapped in a soy sauce-stained blanket. Did you think taking away the thick quilts would freeze me to death? Ellie sent a photo of herself wrapped in a men's padded jacket, eating instant noodles. Did you think I had no food? Are you disappointed? I was instantly shocked. Where did they get these clothes and food? But I immediately recognized the jacket Ellie was wearing. It belonged to an old bachelor downstairs. I had seen him wear it. And the place she was in was probably the old man's house. That old bachelor was very creepy and had wandering hands. He never got enough of taking advantage of women. If anyone left anything outside, he would claim it as his own. For such a person to give Ellie food, when supplies were so scarce, you don't even need to think to know what Ellie had to do in exchange. The extreme cold persisted. 2 days later, it started snowing heavily again. The next time I heard about Ellie and Hong Shixian was 10 days later. They were both dead. Ellie died of cold and starvation, and Hong Shixian was beaten to death while trying to break into a neighbor's house to loot supplies. Beaten to death. Hong Shixian's gruesome photo was posted in the group chat. I stared at the photo, in a daze for a long time. As for this extreme cold, no one remembers exactly how long it lasted. After the snow finally stopped falling, the first thing to stabilize was electricity. Dinga. Water pipes were burst from the freeze, so water wasn't back yet. The most scarce things were food and medicine. The government was doing everything possible to provide support. I believe everything will soon return to normal.